Imagine buying a Honda Accord for $800. Then you take a $300 JDM single cam engine and throw a $200 turbo on it. The end result is hysterically fast. 350 wheel horsepower and 330 foot-pounds of torque in your $800 project. A lot of us in the car community strive for a quote-unquote budget build, and most of the time, it gets away from us. But this time around, the owner of this car, Dell, has truly made it happen. So what's it like driving a true budget build Honda Accord sleeper? Let's talk about it. Huge thanks to DraftKings for sponsoring today's video. With football season kicking off, it's the perfect time to dive into the action with my partners at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet on touchdowns. And right now, all new customers who bet just $5 will get $250 in bonus bets instantly, plus get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium on us. And that's something we can all celebrate. That's $250 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5, plus 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. And stay in on the action and use your $250 in bonus bets to bet anytime touchdowns on DraftKings. DraftKings is the place to bet on touchdowns. And if sports betting is not available in your state, don't worry. You can still get in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use my promo code ThatDude and bet just $5 on any wager and get $250 in bonus bets instantly and get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium. That's promo code ThatDude only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Honda Accord. I've not done many Honda Accords in my entire history of filming cars, but this one's a little bit different. So this one is arguably one of my favorite sleepers I've ever seen, and it really tests the story of like the sleeper Honda build and how accessible a fun car can be. But the only issue right now is that the heat is blasting in order to keep it cool. And I'm currently in Georgia in the summertime, so I might look a little rough this video. It's a wee bit loud, but that's okay. That usually means you're about to have a lot of fun in a Honda. Oh, I'm already in love. Already in love. Rule number 1, this does not have power steering. 2, the steering wheel is slightly crooked. 3, the car looks like it's straight out of the dealership, or a used car dealership out of the 90s. And it looks completely stock from the outside, which I love, except the tiny little intercooler poking out of the bumper. We also have the horn buttons. They still work. Nice. What's the story of this car? Real quick, crash course. This is an early 90s Honda Accord. It's got an F23A single cam JDM engine in it. So it's a turbo single cam, which I've only driven one other time, and that was a D series, with this being the F23A JDM engine. And the owner of this car, Dell, bought this car for $800. That's it. Bought it for $800. The turbo itself on the motor was only $200. The coilovers are max speeding rods, so cheap coilovers, but the wheels and tires are factory, so you would never know. It has the factory manual transmission in it. There is just always something about a turbo Honda. I can never explain it, but every single time I drive one, I absolutely adore it. But this makes 350 wheel horsepower, 330 foot-pounds of torque, which is really good for a Honda, and at the same time, it's open differential, so that's a challenge that I need to face. It's still got the full interior. The car is pretty much the exact same on the inside as it was when he bought it. So what I want to say about Dell is that he drove 6 hours, trailered this all the way down here, then pulled it off the trailer, and then realized that it didn't want to start anymore. So basically there was a computer or a wiring issue, of course, as soon as he got here. So basically I went and filmed something else. In the meantime, shot me a text, said, hey, we fixed it, and now we're here. Since we're at higher elevation in the mountains, it's overheating. So I have to have the heat blasting the entire time to keep the car cool, and we can't turn the car off because it's too scary to turn off. So there's that. But highly worth it. The other thing too is, when you think of turbo Hondas, you mostly think of EG hatch, EK hatch, and essentially past that, Civic SIs, FA5s, all that kind of stuff as a tuner car. I think a lot of people forget that a lot of people did mess with the Accords back in the day too, but the Accord was considered the quote-unquote bigger car. I have driven an H-swap Accord, but I've never driven one of this generation, and this is the one you would see driving around with the fart can on it, you know, and people wouldn't do the extra mile to build these things. This really reminds me of the sleeper status Civic I drove 10 years ago. It was a semi-built LS turbo, so it was like a B18 LS with a cheap turbo on it, and it made 330 wheel. Whoops. But that car was on stock suspension, stock tires, stock everything, so it was a lot scarier to drive. This, with the coilovers and a few other things underneath the car, feels a little bit better, as you can imagine. He did do this on an extreme budget, and it still makes 350 horsepower, which is a really good bang for your buck, especially out of a single cam engine. The car also runs on E85, because, you know, more power, runs cooler, does all the good things with the corn fuel. The brakes, the rotors are a little shot, so I do need to be a little aware on that. The brakes themselves are okay, but the rotors get a little bit of a shake after you do a pull, so there's that. But it is funny though, just driving around, the gauges all still work, everything else still works. Looking around, seeing that it's not some gutted Honda project, it's kind of refreshing. It's kind of refreshing that he took it and just threw a turbo kit on it and just saw what happened. But yeah, he takes great pride in having a JDM motor, and he absolutely loves it. But he also has a YouTube channel. If you want to follow the build, I will put that right here on the screen and also in the description below. Surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, if you drive it slow, it's really not all that bad. First gear was actually very easy. I didn't stall or anything, because a lot of the times with Turbo 4s, you have to be a little mean to the clutches. But this thing, the entire time, just wants to go. Okay, surprisingly, on that first pull, it was actually pretty smooth. Without having a diff, I could have sworn it was gonna throw me across the lane and everything like that, but the way the power came on that first pull, it was actually more linear than I expected. I thought it was gonna come on way more violently, but yeah, it was just kind of did the thing. It just kind of felt like an NA car that was a lot faster. The reason I say that is because many of my viewers probably forgot that I have an EG Honda hatch project. Behind me, Miatas. Many of my viewers probably forgot I have a K-swap turbo EG, but the LSD in it, the diff, does not lock. So it literally throws me all over the road, and it's basically impossible to drive. I have to fix it somehow, and it's not fun to drive at all. But going back to this with 350 wheel and it going straight as an arrow, it's pretty comforting. I'm glad I don't have to deal with that in this car. Oh yeah, third gear is where the sauce is. It's funny, I'm a very big mechanical sympathizer, but I feel like in a Honda you almost have to hit the rev limiter at least once just to be that guy. Got a little bit of wheel spin, but not as much as I imagine on these itty bitty little tires. I could have sworn this was gonna be a spin fest, but I have been proven wrong, and I'm glad that I'm wrong. Oh yeah. This thing's quick in third gear, dude. So you gotta give yourself an extra amount of feet, per se, to prepare for the slowdown. And there was a car behind me, and he probably has no idea what just happened. It's not loud. Like, you're not, like, ruining everybody's day with this loud turbo Civic, right? Like, I am pretty blown away by that third gear. This thing would back half a ton of people. It probably wouldn't get people off the jump, but as soon as you got into third gear and get it rolling, this thing's top end is really impressive. It's really impressive. To the point where I was like, oh, well, I'm going fast enough to make these rotors chatter, so that's good. With how the gearing is, I don't really think I can really get into 4th gear too much on these roads, because I think I would run out of room very, very fast. Back in the day, a lot of my friends who had turbo Civics, especially with the B series, they would use that LS trans because it had the longer gearing. So you could just keep in the power with a really long gear and you didn't have to shift as much. Sure, you don't accelerate as hard initially, but your top end was bananas. Ah! Slow down! Woo! Oh, my wheel is shaking! Have you ever dreamed and had a dream that when you accelerated in your sleeper Honda Accord that your steering wheel is to the 10 o'clock and you're like, I'm accelerating pretty fast at 10 o'clock. So, and then you can just be like, very easy to downshift. The clutch is really great. Back there, I was taking my time with the transmission because not my car, taking my time, not trying to break anything. The first gear, I slipped the clutch a little bit to get into second so I wouldn't like snap an axle or something, but it was very easy to find that intermediate point where the clutch engages. So when you rev match it, it's good. Woo! Open diff, there it is. Just, okay, there we go. That was the open diff moment. 1 out of 5 pulls or so, it's pretty good. It makes all the right noises, right? It's not the fastest turbo Honda I've ever driven, but it doesn't really need to be, right? It's just really fun, really silly, and it pulls. It's not as laggy as I expected. That's 3rd gear. I should be in 2nd, and it's still spooling up pretty fast. This build, I think, for a lot of people getting into cars, is a perfect example. I think it's one of those things where you could really learn the very basics of working on something. Hondas are like Legos, right? In very much many ways. There's so many engine parts that you can combine or switch or find the research of. Forums that are still alive to this day, somehow, don't ask me. He bought this engine back in the day for $300. Now, is it gonna be that cheap nowadays? Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Still $300 for the engine. $200 for the turbo, $800 for the car, a running and driving car. Transmission, still the transmission that he used. A little bit of money into the clutch, probably invested a little bit into the clutch, and the max speeding rod coilovers. Not bad. Not bad to have 350 horsepower, to be a menace to society, and getting gapped by a old Honda Accord. And sometimes, these are the best cars, right? They're the most fun cars to drive around, tell the story, and also gap people in. There's nothing like driving down the highway and seeing a Corvette or a V8 car or something and back-halfing them in a budget turbo Honda. And I think a lot of people who are watching this and have owned a turbo Honda will completely understand. And why a lot of people don't ever leave Hondas. They'll stay with them forever. They never try anything new. When you get into a car because it needs to be get into to climb up a mountain, every single moment in this thing is dramatic. Every single one. You big toe it like SpongeBob, you get turbo noises. You floor it, you get turbo noises. But it's because of that raw sensation that you get from driving one of these. It's a 90s car, it's mechanical, and it makes all the right noises. And that's all I got to say about that. So, on that note, what do you guys think about Dell's Honda Accord? I had a wonderful time. I really want to give credit to Dell for doing a 12-hour round trip for letting me drive this car. And it's just incredible. People are incredible. I'm very lucky to do what I do, and Dell's a perfect example of that. So, on that note, let me know what you think about it. Please hit that like button because it really helps me out in this algorithmic world. And I will see you guys next time. Take it easy. Have a wonderful day. See ya. Bye.